Hi, and welcome everyone to day 2. This has been awesome. We've had such an amazing start. How was yesterday for you, Natasha?
I think we had a great start to the week, to the month, and I'm looking forward to today. So, yes, welcome back to the International Celebration of Women on the Blockchain. This is day 2 for us. It's a Wednesday, so it's going to be a worldwide Wednesday, and we're going to have discussions about the global effects of the blockchain. We're going to bring up to the stage now Yinka, who is the founder of the Black Women in Blockchain Council, who is the organization that is put together and is bringing this event to you. And we're going to get started.
Thank you very much, ladies. It's great to see you this morning. It's Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. for me. I'm really happy to see your lovely faces once again. We had such a successful event yesterday. I'm still cheesing after the event. I just want to say kudos to all the speakers and all the committee members and the work that you guys have done so far. So yeah, we're going to start this morning a little bit different. As you all know, we are heavy on blockchain. We are heavy on the whole decentralization aspect. So I want to bring up all the committee members that is online joining us today, and let's have a thorough discussion about what brought us into this ecosystem. I know yesterday some of you mentioned the reasons why you came on board and your understanding of this space. But I want us to have a thorough discussion because I think a lot of people assume that you need to be technical in order to be in this space, which is not true at all. I know I came in through an unconventional way, and I'm sure most of you did as well. So let's go ahead and have that discussion, and maybe that will help some of the audience members feel a little bit more comfortable about joining this ecosystem that we're building. All right, so I'm going to start. So for me, I actually joined this whole ecosystem through an introduction to Bitcoin. I had a friend at the time that I actually reached out to him for something entirely different. And in the midst of our conversation, he started talking about Bitcoin. And he was like, for Bitcoin, you should definitely look into it and purchase. And this thing looks like it's going to be really big. And I was like, not really sure about it, right? Because at the time, I was working at the financial institution, and one of the things that we needed to do was show our personal securities trading account. And by doing that, it's, they get a viewpoint into seeing what we're investing in. And I didn't want to raise any alarm because, I'm in a financial institution and financial industry. And then at the same time, it's like, I'm investing in alternative, right, currency that's basically against the whole centralized aspect that I'm working in. And so I hesitated to purchasing Bitcoin at the time. but he kept mentioning it. And so I decided, let me do my research. Let me find out exactly what it is. Like everybody says, do your own due diligence, right? Don't just trust people. Even though he's a really cool friend. And I did take all his words for truth. I needed to do my own research just so I could get that comfort level. And I also think because, we're females, right? We take our time, we analyze things to death sometimes before we jump into it. So I researched and started like looking deeper into the technology blockchain. And it was actually the technology that made me say, you know what, this is awesome. This is like what we need. And being that I'm, African American, I'm Nigerian descent, and I'm in the U.S. and I get the best of both worlds. I get news from Nigeria and the rest of Africa, and then I get news from U.S. and the Western world. And there's a running theme, right? There's that lack of trust. There's that need for accountability. There's that need to be able to trace what people say is going to happen to money. For Nigeria, we've had long histories of government officials taking money, taking it outside of the country, hiding it in cupboards. This is a true story. In their apartment in London or such, right? And they're doing all kinds of nefarious things with the money that's supposed to be benefiting the citizens, but they're not doing their part to uplift the country. And with that, it was amazing to us that this is what our government officials will do. And then in the U.S., we were starting to get ready for an election season the next year. And then, there's this whole lack of trust when it comes to, the election cycle and all these things, and everything gets thrown onto the kitchen table at that time. But, it's important. Around that time, everywhere, it was important to have this accountability. And I started looking at blockchain as that way for us to have that. It was a need for us to have that accountability, for us to be able to trace the movement of money, right? To trace the movement of data. And being able to do that was significant. And so this technology just opened up my eyes and was like, oh my God, this is what we need. This is it. Like all the use cases are fantastic, but this technology is like the foundation of so many different things that could be created. And so with that, I started calling myself a blockchain enthusiast. I wanted to educate people, founded BWBC, and have not stopped ever since. I believe in the technology solely because of the ability for us to create that accountability, the ability for us to strengthen the trust that we have amongst each other, because we're not just relying on each other, we're relying on technology to be able to give us that transparency that we've always been looking for. So that was my story. I like to hear the other stories for ladies. How did you guys get into this ecosystem? Go ahead, Olivina.
Wow, I love your story and I love your journey, especially the fact where you touched upon Africa, and clearly that speaks a lot to me. For me, funny enough, my journey kind of started with people reaching out to me in terms of a conference. And this was to host a conference in Africa called, the Converge. And they couldn't find speakers. They couldn't find female speakers in the space. And, they really reached out and said, we understand, with your expertise in technology and understanding all of it, do you think that it's possible for you to get involved on any level, whether it was just hosting the event or speaking about a particular subject? And I took a few days, like you did, just to do my research and say, can I actually understand this tech? Is it that difficult? Because obviously we need to know what we're talking about, right? Especially in a conference environment, So I found myself endlessly researching for the past few, next few days, and really just fell in love with it like you did. I thought, wow, this is so seamless. It addresses all the things, from diversity, inclusion, ethics, the transparency, accountability, and the works around it. And I thought, wow, why haven't we done this before? It just seems so obvious that I had to get involved in it. And ever since then, just been really educating myself as well as helping other women in the space. I also have started writing articles, which is published in one of the digital magazines. And it's an ever evolving space, and I absolutely love it. If we think back just to 8 years ago, 5 years ago, it was just blockchain. And then it was blockchain became crypto, and then crypto became NFTs, and then NFTs became DAOs and metaverse and Web3, and and on and on. So it's such an amazing space, absolutely. So that's a little bit about my snippet of how I got into the space. So thank you so much for that. We can pass over.
I love to hear that because it's important for everyone to know that you don't just come knowing about what's going on here. You do have to do your research. And we all are coming from like different backgrounds, right? Even though I'm in tech, I'm not a techie. Or at least I wouldn't call myself a techie. But at the same time, it's like this technology was not hard for me to grasp, just like you, right? You did your due diligence and you started to realize, and it started to resonate with you and the many things that it could facilitate, right? And that's important. I think it's important for all of us to tap into it and start thinking beyond the current use cases, that it's important for us to have, an idea, to come up with innovations that are far beyond what we currently see. Because I truly believe that women are going to be the one to elevate this whole ecosystem and be able to transform it into a space that's more community driven, that's more community focused as well. And with that said, I want to go to Nicole. Nicole, you have a technical background, so I'm curious to know, like, how did you get into blockchain and what brought you here?
Hey, Yinka. Good morning, everybody. I'm Nicole Maxwell. I am over a group. I'm the founder of a group called Blackverse. But before that, and above that, I think I am a techie. I'm a gamer, a techie. I am a sci-fi enthusiast. So all of those things kind of are what put me squarely in the niche of the metaverse. But when it comes to the blockchain specifically, I think that for me, my awareness of it is kind of like a lot of folks. It came through crypto, just as as something that was kind of playing in the background of life. Like these people in tech are getting into this stuff called crypto, and it was kind of, I think at first it felt like it was kind of that dark web kind of thing, like it's where the bad kids play. But then eventually, folks started to become aware of crypto. And so for me, a lot of it came from having to speak to people about what they were looking for in their solutions for a business. So as businesses were entering the blockchain, they were getting serious about the partners that they would develop relationships with. So, they wanted to be decentralized, and they would ask these questions, and we would not qualify because we were a fully centralized organization. And I started to inquire at that point. As far as me personally getting involved, besides, kind of dabbling in crypto a little bit and not being successful, that definitely came last year when I got very serious about decentralization. The reason for that is part of that is the rooms that we attend on Clubhouse, one of them being the Black Women in Blockchain, by our wonderful Yinka here, that we have every week on Thursdays and Fridays. But a lot of it also came from just going through stuff and realizing that I need a better way I need a way to have value in, or to express value in some of the things that I care about. And so the blockchain actually does that for me. It is permanent. There is that immutability there. It's transparent, which a lot of people are not. It is a way for us to really be able to have and define ownership. Because ownership is something that people can take from you in the traditional space. People can erase with untruths. We've seen that historically as a people. And we've seen it over and over again, in minority populations where we get overwritten and history gets redefined for however suits the masses, right? And I don't like that. I want a way for us to be able to actually track who owns something and who actually created it. Define that ownership, put it on the blockchain, and have it there for everybody to see. That ownership is extremely important to me. I think that it really hit home probably around October last year. We were having a room in Clubhouse, and one of the guys that we know said, hey, we've all lost stuff. We've all lost stuff. And we were talking about virtual real estate at the time. But the blockchain allows you to retain that ownership and to cement that ownership. That's what I like to say is we're cementing the ownership on the blockchain. That is something that I coined last year. And that's what it feels like to me, is being able to fully say that I own something. I'm the one who created it. And that is important to me. Anybody who knows me knows that I harp about that all the time. But I think that for a lot of us, it makes sense. The technology is also extremely cool. So there's that. And I like the fact that it's dispersed. There is no one who gets to define it fully. And when we're talking about the metaverse specifically, I think that also becomes extremely important. I had an epiphany last night that, I kind of... I lean in towards things that really stick and resonate with decentralization, even though I don't know it. And so, like at the time. So, we'll get into a lot more of that if you tune in on Fridays, or when you tune in on Fridays for Metaverse. We are talking Futuristic Fridays in the Metaverse. So we're going to talk about all things related to the Metaverse, and we'll uncover some of those topics as well. This is Nicole, and my voice is resting. Thank you. You're muted.
Technology is one of those things that you constantly have to keep an eye on. So I appreciate it, Nicole. And it's important for people to know that every one of us come from different walks of life. We come from different understanding. And at the same time, we jump into this space at different times. And it's important to know that the comfortability level really depends on the individual. Are you ready? Are you ready and willing to do the research and the understanding that it needs in order for you to really grasp what we're creating here? But there's a community out there that's willing to provide education. And I think the next speaker or the next committee member, can attest to that, right? Because her and I met in another room on Clubhouse, but then we came together and really became close off of the whole concept of what the hell is blockchain, right? So Natasha, I want you to talk about your journey and experience in this space.
Okay, well, let's see, my journey and experience into this space. So, as we've mentioned, I've heard Clubhouse has been mentioned. I was on Clubhouse, and Clubhouse is a social audio app where you go and you listen to people talk about different topics. And I was in one of those spaces, and Yinka was in the space as well. And she was saying she does a weekly educational talk on what is blockchain, to spread the word to the community. And so one day I went into her room where she was educating people about blockchain, and that's how I came into the space. I did not know what a blockchain was. I did not know anything. I knew there was Bitcoin, and that was all I knew. I didn't know there were other coins. So I was brand new, totally new to the field and to the technology. And as I sat in the rooms and listened, it's there every week. She has them on Clubhouse, and I just picked up a little bit more every week. And the thing that I found really interesting was NFTs, non-fungible tokens, as I always speak about my daughter, who was an artist. And I saw that that was a really cool way to have something we could do with all of her cute little kitties that she draws all the time. And that's how we came to have the My Dark Cats collection on OpenSea, was from my daughter's love of art and finding an option for her to get into some entrepreneurship skills as well. And also another aspect of the blockchain and cryptocurrency is in the new metaverse spaces. We have some metaverse spaces such as Decentraland and crypto voxels, where cryptocurrency is the currency that's used in those spaces. And so I've always had an interest in new experiences and gaming with my daughter. And so we definitely have an interest in the metaverse and taking journeys in different spaces and enjoying that together. So that's basically how I got into the blockchain space. And that's what's keeping me there, is the NFTs and the metaverse.
Awesome. I'm really excited, that you were able to join us. And we were able to get you into the ecosystem. Whatever way you want to enter, it's important to just enter, right? One of the things that I tell people who are sitting on the sidelines is the best way to understand this space is to get your hands dirty. And that's very true. This is not a space where you study, where you go to school to learn, etc. Because a lot of the times, a lot of the content or information that you're getting, they become old really fast because we move in dog years. Every day is like a year. There's a lot of stuff to be learned. There's a lot of things that's going to happen in this space. And it's very important to just jump in, learn the ins and out, and sometimes failure is a good thing, for people, right? And when you fail, you learn how to do it better the next time, right? And I think this space is one of those places where you have to really understand that, because in order for you to grasp it and be able to learn the do's and don'ts, you do need to go through those motions and those processes. So now I want to invite Tam. Tam, thanks for joining us. So, just like Natasha, you have heard of Bitcoin, right? And you mentioned in your intro that you were part of the, you were in the Black Bitcoin Billionaire Room when they talk a lot about cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin. And that's how your introduction to this space is. So can you elaborate and talk more about that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing me up to the stage. Hello, ladies. Hello, everyone. My name is Tam Fitzgerald. And as Yinka was saying, I was introduced to this space via Bitcoin education. A little bit about me. I have been in so many different industries. I have like a mixed match, I guess, use of skills, and I've been in management. And so I'm always very just curious about how new things are developing. And in December of 2020, my sister, for the first time, mentioned Bitcoin. It wasn't my first time seeing the symbol, but it was the first person that I had known that had anything, who had actually had any holdings in Bitcoin. And she said, hey, my CPA told me about this and you should check it out. And I said, sure, cool. Right. But this was at the time when everybody became a buzzword. And I am not quick to move on buzzwords. But February of 2021, I joined Clubhouse. And one of the first groups that I saw was this room named Black Bitcoin Billionaires. And I said, okay, let me hop in here and see what they're talking about. Like, if this is really something that is like a viable option for me. And the more I listened in that room, the more I became educated in the space. And not only was I educated about Bitcoin, but Bitcoin being built on blockchain technology. So then that led me to the question of what is blockchain? And from that question, I actually, another room popped up on Clubhouse, which Yinka is the founder of, Yinka and Nicole. And it's, what the hell is blockchain? And I said, well, this seems like a obvious next step. So let me go ahead and join this group and begin listening here and see if I can figure out what's going on here. And in my education and understanding what blockchain technology was, how Bitcoin is different from every other monetary system and every other coin that we have had in the past, I really just became very passionate about spreading what I call the Bitcoin gospel and spreading the blockchain technology gospel, because this technology is being utilized in so many different areas that is going to affect everyone's life in so many different ways. Like, the world is going to look completely different. Just like today we have the internet in our pocket, when it used to be just the computers were just like a huge calculator that took up like 2 rooms. And now we literally hold the internet in our pockets. The same type of development is happening in this Web3 space. Like, it's going to change the way that we interact with each other, the way we interact with the world, with the way we receive goods and services. And it is so fascinating. And there's just so much to learn. And that's why I am so excited to be here. And I'm just happy. I believe that, like I say, if you are the smartest person that you are around, like, you're around the wrong people, if you find that you're the smartest person. So what I did, just to get more educated, I began to hang out with these ladies here, and anybody that can really teach me something about this space, I'm all devoted to it. And I'm devoted to helping other people, educate other people that this space is for you, especially for women. It is for us. We can educate each other. We can educate our children, our friends, our family. And we can really make our presence known, and we should. And so that's how I got here.
I love it. I love it. It's so true that education is very important, and for people not to be afraid of being educated about this space. There's so many different type of resources that are out there, solely because everyone knows that getting involved in this space does require a little bit of hand holding, a little bit of information, a little bit of that security. Even though it is self-sovereignty, you're supposed to gather all the information and be able to walk through this space on your own. We do understand that sometimes you need to go or be in a safe space or in a community that provides you with that type of level of education or awareness that you're seeking in order for you to fully tap in. And I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to create and build and provide to this space as well. So I want to go to Corey. Corey, are you there? Because I know, you're doing so many different things in this space, and you're fully involved. So I want you to talk about your journey and what brought you into this blockchain ecosystem.
Good morning, ladies. How's everybody? I hope everybody's doing great. Um, yeah, I'm like Nicole. I'm a futurist. I'm a geek. I was always a person who loves sci-fi, fantasy, and kind of marched to the beat of a different drummer. And but I didn't come into blockchain that way, even though I was a techie. I have cybersecurity certification, all of that. For some reason, it's just the crypto message didn't get to me. So until, I personally, had some struggles going through 2 recessions. During the first one, my kids were much younger. Ended up, like so many of us, especially people of color, losing so many things, lost a home, and was just in search of, how can I change the trajectory of my financial future? And I tried a lot of different ways to do that, working 2 jobs, multi-level marketing, whatever. I was really desperate to try to basically improve my way of living and maintain a roof over my head. And it was during one of those kind of desperate times, desperate measures, that I was in another group on Telegram, and they were doing something that people of color may be familiar with, called susus, and where basically it's Ponzi schemes. You put in money and you hope that somebody's going to come in after you and you're going to get paid out. And the people who were running a couple of the rooms were saying, well, we need you to pay your entry fee in Bitcoin. And that was literally like the first I had heard of, like, Bitcoin, why? And I said, if they're doing this and they're not asking for cash, they know something that I don't know. So I'm thankful for that experience, because it led me into researching what crypto is. And I went into it like wholeheartedly after I found out. I'm like, this thing has some potential. Let me start going to YouTube University. At the time, I was a college student studying something else. And I was like, you know what? This has a really steep learning curve, but I can see the potential here. It was like this light, it came on in my head. Angels started singing, the skies opened up, and I was like, this is the way. I got to get in here, and I got to get in now. And I just literally dropped everything and started learning everything I could about crypto. And then after that, blockchain, and then after that, NFTs. That's been almost 2 years ago. It did change my financial future. I was able to pay off my debt. I was able to maintain without the struggle of two jobs. And after that, I said, if it can do this for me, what could it do for other women? How could this lift families out of poverty? And I became a disciple of Web3. And I have not looked back, because I do believe that this is the way. I believe that we are just beginning to see um, where this is going to go, the uses that it is going to have. I have always said that blockchain is an answer that is looking for problems, because if there's a problem, it can solve it. And we just are starting to scratch the surface. And I'm well aware of the potential for that for marginalized communities, and the possibilities that exist for us to change life as we know it, to equalize in the playing field for all of us, because it doesn't matter if you're Black, white, gay, straight, male, female. If you have the determination and you put in the effort, you can make it, and you can be successful in the arena of blockchain. So that's why I'm so excited about the future of blockchain and what it is doing for all of us, presently.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I love to hear everyone's journey, and everyone's interest in this space, right? As you guys have heard, people have come in solely for the technology. People have come in for the cryptocurrency aspect. Others have come in for the NFT aspect, and as well as the metaverse, right? And that's like that tells you that this technology has such a great reach. We know that there's a decentralized portion and then there's a centralized portion, which a lot of companies are actually building off of. For the longest time, we've known that a lot of these financial institutions have their own trademark off of their own blockchain related projects or technology that they're building. So it's been around, and some of them have already built those and incorporated into their services that they provide other businesses or individuals, and you may not know it, right? So there's a lot that's being done with this technology that's far greater than what we're currently seeing, and I believe there's going to be more to come. I want to tap into Pam right now. Pam, thank you very much for managing our chat. Really appreciate that. So what brought you into this space, and what are you looking forward to? We can't hear you. Your mic. You're still muted, I believe. All right. So while we have her go off and try to fix her mic, I just think it's very good, to hear everyone's journey. And I'm hoping that by all of us sharing our journey, that you are all, able to see yourself in our process of jumping into this space. And maybe that hesitation and that fear that you have is slowly disappearing. And you're realizing that you don't need to come with all the type of expertise for this space. It's a space that actually requires you to bring in what you already know, and you could use the technology to build off of that. I like to let people know that, in this current space that we're creating, everyone knows that we're still in the earlier stage. We may not be in that early stage for long, right? Because we have celebrated, 13 years of Bitcoin, I believe. And so at some point, we'll stop saying early. However, it is still early in the sense that when it comes to the technology, we're still learning what kind of other things can be built off of it, right? And then companies are also looking for individuals who just have the basic background of blockchain to come and work for them. So if you have like an experience in marketing, if you have experience in IT and cybersecurity as a lawyer, et cetera, there are companies out there that's looking for people like you who have that basic understanding of what the hell is blockchain, right? And if you have that, they know that you can help them incorporate that into what they're trying to do by educating the senior levels, by educating middle management and the rest of the employees on what it is and get their thought process going. It's very important for companies to stay on the latest trends of technology, right? And we do have a lot of companies that are jumping into this space from various angles. We had, Cash App that is part of Block that actually a few years ago decided to allow you to trade your Bitcoin, right? You're able to purchase Bitcoin, and you're also able to send other individuals Bitcoin as well. We have other financial institutions that are looking at providing Bitcoin as well as other currencies as like an alternative investment vehicle for their clienteles. And that's very important as well, because they're seeing the significance of diversifying the portfolio, right? Because we used to have just stock as well as all the SEC approved investment vehicles in the US, but a lot of investment institutions are also looking at cryptocurrencies as and in addition to their portfolio, which I think we've come a long way. It's been significant change in the last few years. And then, there's corporations like Visa. They got involved when they first purchased their own NFT. Like they bid on an NFT and they won the NFT. And, that was significant because that showed that actually, in my sense, they did a 180, right? Because a lot of credit cards, at one point, they prevented you from purchasing cryptocurrencies for your own good, is what they said. But now we're seeing that a lot of them are tapping into it, and several of the major business cards are coming into this space. We have companies like Nike and Adidas, who are bringing their own aspect into the NFT space and building off of that and using it as a marketing tool to help them tap into these newly created and really interested community that's being built out of this ecosystem. We have so many different companies that are creating. We have the recent Matrix movie and the whole production or surrounding that tapped into NFTs as well, to make sure that their moviegoers or movie lovers will be able to get the benefit of both worlds. In the U.S., we had, the Thanksgiving Day Macy's parade, where they tapped into NFTs as well. So it's going mainstream. Like, this is it, and it's funny how, like, in my lifetime, right? And I'm not that old, but I can say in my lifetime, because I feel like as part of the Generation X, we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot happen. And in the short amount of time, less than a decade, we've seen the narrative around this whole space go from negative to positive, and now corporations are like highlighting the fact that they're involved. Recently, the Super Bowl, a big NFT, cryptocurrency, blockchain ads that happened during that time. So it's like, it's no longer a secret, something that you whisper to people. It's now something that you could proudly say, yo, I'm investing in this, and I'm doing this, and I'm in part of this ecosystem. So I think it's really cool how things have shifted and how things have progressed in this space. And I love hearing all of your stories. I think Pam is still having technical issues. We have a few other committee members that also are having technical issues. And that's something that I'm realizing is going on a lot lately. So I'm not sure if it's tied to what's going on in the world right now. But, we do care about all humanity. And we do want to say that, we are in support of peace. We're in support of all of us coming together and working towards a future that benefits everyone, and not necessarily certain people with certain power. I think it's important that everyone understands that they are important in this world. There's no need for us to centralize power into one particular hand or one particular space. I think all human life, I know all human life are important, and we should start behaving and working towards that. I'm really hoping that we don't have to go to war. I'm hoping that we can start focusing on peace and start focusing on the many possibilities that could be built in the future. We deserve a future that's better than the way things are right now. And with that said, I want to see if Pam is able to jump back on.
Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes, loud and clear.
Great. How's everyone doing this morning? That was a great conversation. Really hard to follow up on that, but I think what I'll add, just a little color of my sister too. I think Fitzgerald actually said her sister it's the fault of her sister as well. My sister been in the game, the cryptocurrency game, for a little while. We weren't paying attention to anything she was saying for quite some time, and then one day she shared with me that someone that she knows was purchasing a pair of shoes that they will never wear in real life, but that she purchased a pair of shoes for a ridiculous amount of real fiat and purchased them in Ethereum. And I'm like, okay, what now? And that was the first time that I paid attention, that I started asking questions. That was around August of 2021. And I never stopped asking questions. And I found myself looking in Clubhouse at a completely different search criteria. I was engaged in Clubhouse earlier from a general marketing and PR perspective. Metaverse and NFT was not part of my vocabulary at all. Even as a diehard Trekkie, having heard Metaverse kind of in the past lightly, but it wasn't Star Trek, so it wasn't on my radar. And that was the first time, and it really was a matter of just continuously asking questions, going into these rooms, trying to follow the banter back and forth between people who have clearly been in this space longer than I have, and just really being comfortable once I was comfortable in
asking a question, then you really start to really absorb the information that you start to read, and then the creativity kicks in to where now you're like, oh, I know what I can do, right? And then you have to decide or find out if you're thinking about things within the realm of feasibility, but then you're learning like the terminology of feasibility and possibility is really being stretched in this space. So you just find yourself submerged in conversation and exchanges that were things you've never thought about, that you've never expressed before, and the speed through which those things start coming to mind. Yinka said one day is like a year. I hope not. My conversion has been one day has been a week. Lord, if it's one day is a year, we're in trouble. But and that's so true, to where there's so much information that you can consume, and it's just your own ability to then try and file that in some way so you can pick it up, or you can share it, or it becomes part of this plan you're currently working on, or it becomes something that's on your back burner, but you want it all, right? And then you meet amazing women that like those who I'm sharing this stage with, who have started to develop things and think about things and cultivate the relationships that are really necessary for you to have someone to talk to about this space. Because then you realize everyone in your life thinks you're crazy, right? And then everyone in this space is completely normal. And now you're like, okay, these are the people I need to talk to on a regular basis. And I think that is how this stuff starts to turn into actionable sorry about that, actionable plans and moving beyond ideation, and that's what we're really have the beautiful opportunity to see this entire month, all month long, of how all of the amazing creative ideas can actually turn into really amazing projects, products, services, and so on. And the sky is not the limit. Dimensions are the limit, and those apparently are eternal and innumerable. So that's the exciting part for me. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Pam. Really appreciate that. You're right. Maybe it's not years, maybe months, but I don't know. I just feel like
Who
there's
knows?
a lot. But no, I appreciate what you said. The sky is not the limit in this space, and you do meet people who have experience in various backgrounds. And no one is crazy. But we do have some extremists, who strictly stick to one thing and that's it. But however, that's their choice, right? In this space, you're able to travel the way that you feel comfortable. Your comfortability level is very important in this space. And if it's one particular chain, then it's, one particular blockchain, then it's that particular blockchain, and you don't want to learn about anything else. And that's understandable. But however, we are building a decentralized space, right? And decentralization means that you don't stick to just one, you learn about everything. And that's what we're promoting here. I do have Rebecca. Rebecca, are you able to unmute and talk? Rebecca, we appreciate you joining us. Rebecca is part of our committee member. She will be moderating Table Talk Thursdays tomorrow. We want to have her come up and just join us and talk about what brought you into this space and what are you looking forward to. All right, we must be having technical issues. Rebecca is actually joining us from Nigeria. When we say this thing is international, we mean international. So, we have people from all over the globe. We have Lavina, who's from South Africa. We have Nigeria. We have the women in the US here. And then we have Anna Isabel, who's in Portugal. We have another committee member, Sabrina, who is from Spain, but currently traveling in Brazil right now. And then she'll join us later on in the event as well, after she settles from her travels. But yeah, we have women from all over the globe who have tapped in, and you'll be able to interact with them Sometimes we're going to have technical issues because we are doing this for everyone. And we're incorporating all these women from all over the places. So there will be some technical issues. And I think we just had our first experience there. But Rebecca, we truly appreciate you attempting to join us and being able to at least stay for a little bit. Would love to, one day have you on and talk about your journey. Rebecca is a board member of Black Women Blockchain Council. She's been instrumental for a long time as a board member and has helped do a lot of stuff in the back end. She does write for various cryptocurrency or blockchain related publications. And, she's also looking for more jobs and more work to do as well. So I want y'all to tap into Rebecca if you're looking for someone who could write great articles about this space. And with that said, I just want to encourage everyone to tweet, reshare. We're about to go on to our panel discussion, which will be moderated by our wonderful Tam over here and hosted by our wonderful women up there, Natasha. We are very excited to bring these ladies to you. But first, we're going to go to intermission. While we're intermission, make sure that you guys tap into our Discord because there may be some activities going on there, as well as the fact that you should be encouraged to tweet, share, like on Facebook, on IG, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, this event. Help us promote it as much as possible because women should be celebrated, especially during Women History Month. And this is an all month long event, and we want to encourage you guys to tap in, join us, and let's celebrate. So thank you. We'll be dancing during the intermission. I'm telling you, we love this song. So thank you.
Welcome back. Welcome back. So for our next segment, we're going to be having a panel discussion. And for that discussion, we're going to have one of our committee members, Tam Fitzgerald, be the host of that. So we're going to be bringing Tam up, and I'll tell you a little bit about Tam. She is our international mukbanger, so she travels the world sharing her craft with the world and what she enjoys, as well as she is also in the financial industry. She is a blockchain enthusiast since February 2021, which you probably just heard her giving her story a few moments ago. And so I'm excited. I'm sure you all are in for a treat as we bring Tam on up to the stage. And she's going to introduce to you the participants in this panel discussion. It's going to talk about the impacts of this technology on this Worldwide Wednesday. Hi, Tam.
Hi, Natasha. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. As Natasha said, I'm Tam Fitzgerald. And a little bit about what I do. I am an international mukbanger, which means I travel the world and I eat food and I show people my experiences. And I'm a financial advisor utilizing insurance tools to help people to begin their journey to financial wealth, as well as tax-free retirement planning. So while I am not traditionally in a technical space, I found my way to the blockchain technology via Bitcoin, and it has been an amazing ride thus far. I'm so excited today about the panel because I get to ask and you guys get to listen about how this technology is impacting us in the world today. The regular person like me, regular person like you, regardless what industry you're in, you will be affected. So as we're bringing up our panelists, we're going to let them introduce themselves. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Natalie Gill. If you would, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent.
Hi, Natalie.
Well, thank you so much for the invite. I'm super happy to, to get to know all the event and everything that's going on. Really excited to be here. And, I think we have probably similar paths in common when joining the space. I heard about Bitcoin many years ago, but then I started taking that seriously when I was doing research some years ago. I went back to grad school, and so I work in financial technology, for years. So I was very curious about that. I'm a systems engineer, technology architect by training. So in the past years, I've been doing a lot of, let's call it evangelization in terms of blockchain, pure blockchain, scale blockchain, deploying on, organizations, corporate uses, and financial inclusion as well. And it's been such a ride. I normally don't do crypto, but I also explain about that. And in the past months, it's been great to have all wrapped up as Web3, and also not only the technology and crypto, but also all the intentions around inclusion and decentralization and empower everybody. The initiative I run right now is Darshana, so it's a Web3 based platform that empowers talent, diverse talent, to get to great companies. And probably I'll share a little bit more about that. But that's what I'm doing right now after years in corporate, in finance, then in health tech, and super happy to be here and super humble to have fellow panelists talking with me today.
Thank you so much, Natalie. We are so happy to have you. Brianna Faye, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brianna Faye. I am a metaverse architect. I'm actually formally trained as an architect, but I have been working in tech for over 10 years. And I kind of have a focus in emerging technologies. So Web3 is a big part of that, blockchain, IoT, augmented reality, virtual reality. Which is why this year has been particularly exciting for me, because I think the world suddenly cares about a lot of things that I care about, which has been really delightful. And yeah, I specialize in pretty much all those things. I've been in the blockchain space for quite some time. And I, the last year, dove really deep into NFTs after kind of, seeing the mass adoption come that we so wanted back in 2017 and 2018. So yeah, delighted to be here. I'm a builder in the space, an artist and a creative. And so I'm happy to talk more about all things blockchain, metaverse, and the applications beyond, a lot of what we're seeing right now, which is sort of arts and PFP, profile pics, avatars, but talk about the immense impact that NFTs and Web3 technologies will have on all kinds of different industries.
Wow, thank you, Brianna. I know you are going to add so much value to this conversation. And next we have the wonderful Blue Moon. Go ahead and introduce yourself for us.
Hi, everybody. My name is Blue Moon. I'm a founding partner of Intent.art, which is a tech, art, and sustainability forward NFT artist collective and platform. I also, aside from my my business in the NFT world, I am also a sustainability influencer. And recently I have been focusing my content on the intersection of blockchain and sustainability. It's been a very interesting wild ride, but I'm learning a lot, and I'm really dedicated to educating my audience even more about about blockchain and sustainability. I think that Web3 world is coming, whether environmentalists want it or not. And the more environmentalists we have while the Web3 community is being built, the better off we're all going to be. And the more like forward thinking sustainability wise we're also going to be.
Wow, thank you, Blue Moon. Just for you guys listening as well, Blue Moon is going to be our final speaker today. So she has something else in store for us. So make sure you stick around, make sure you're tweeting. It's a wonderful conversation that is going to blow your mind, I guarantee. And last but certainly not least, we have Melissa Russeck. I'm sorry if I pronounced your last name.
It is fine. Everyone butchers it. It's fine. I'm ML Russeck. I don't go by Melissa too often. I am the CEO of Treant Press, which is a publishing company traditionally publishing books, magazines, stuff like this. But we just started transitioning, taking our books and making them into NTFs. So that's how I actually got into the space. And I was doing a podcast with another wonderful woman that actually taught me in 30 minutes what blockchain was. This is how we connected, and I got here today. That's pretty much what I do.
Excellent. Thank you, Emil. And I got you now. Russeck. I'll get it, I promise.
Think rooster, roost, and chalk. Chalk.
Russeck.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you so much, Emil. I appreciate you ladies for being here. So without further ado, let's get right into the conversation. As a regular person, right, I have a family, I have responsibilities, I have a job. How can I expect my life to change or be altered by this new blockchain technology? I know it's a very broad question, but each of you guys have different specialities. So if you can just take it away and help us answer that question. How will this new technology impact my life? And if we like, we can actually go ahead and start with Emil, if you don't mind. How do you see it happening?
I'm seeing a couple different trends right now as I do a lot of research. As an author, as an entrepreneur, I research the heck out of anything before I invest. So I actually started working with a platform called Gram Free. It's just so I can get my feet wet and figure out the space before I start investing money. But at the same time, I'm seeing how my money's growing using this free platform so I can transfer what I'm learning as an individual, because I don't know blockchain. 6 months ago, you would have said Bitcoin, I would have said you're crazy. But I'm seeing how to transition what I'm learning here and implement it into not only my daily life as a person, but also as a business owner. I'm seeing the investing, I'm seeing the growth, I'm seeing the sustainability, where my other investments, including stocks and Microsoft, Disney, stuff like this, isn't as sustainable and not as quickly income, daily income, versus what I've seen on traditional stocks.
Okay, so we can expect what you're saying. There's investment that is going to change, specifically.
Investments going to change, your banking's changing. I'm starting as a business owner accepting Bitcoin as currency for books.
Wow.
So,
And I do understand like a little bit about the Bitcoin as a currency, and how it can affect the way that we are transacting. Is there any way you can go into a little bit more in detail on that for me?
it was me, okay, as a business owner, I'm always looking at how do I grow my business? Well, the one thing right now, everyone wants to know, because we have the crypto cards. We all know crypto.com has their pay here with this debit card. Use your debit card from them, or other sites do this too. I just know that one's on TV a lot. But pay here, use it as cash. Well, what companies are actually doing that? So the day I started advertising, hey, I will take Bitcoin as payments for ebooks, now I'm seeing growth within my company. I'm actually seeing more people buy ebooks through Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies than they are with the debit cards. I'm seeing this transition, especially with the younger 20 to 18-year-olds, a lot with them right now. They're paying with crypto. So it's changing me as a business owner, how I'm doing business. Now I have to make sure my bank can keep up with transferring Bitcoin to USD, because the banking system hasn't caught up with that completely. Is to segment it.
Right.
I do have a bank that helps, but it's not one-on-one yet. It's not the same. So I have to make sure everything's lined up.
Absolutely. Like it's very important to make sure that throughout whatever your financial chain is, like your bank has to be on board, your pockets have to be on board. If you're a business owner, it all has to be synchronized together. So I can definitely see how that would affect how you do business. And so I'm gonna go ahead and ask Natalie, same question. Like, how have you been seeing this affecting the way that we interact right now in the world?
So I think some years ago I was wondering how this is gonna be adopted. And then I have several use cases, all the way from, I have a great friend doing tokens with bottle of wines years ago, like groundbreaking thing, IoT tracing, whatever he's doing in the wine yard in Argentina. A lot of other things going on in banks in Latin America. You've seen the disruption caused in El Salvador with the government-led Bitcoin adoption, but there's a lot of things that are being there because of the need, right? So there's several countries around the world. I'm pretty much close to Latin America, and then how let's say the first thing we started to talk about cryptocurrencies way back was remittances, payments, and everything else, right? Before we went into more things. So there's a lot of things going on in Venezuela years now. You've seen the past days also a lot of things enabling value and payments because of the war. In Argentina, there's a lot of things going on because of regulatory stuff. So on the finance side, and then evolving to a DeFi side, there's a lot of opportunity because there was a leapfrog. So right now, most of the systems we don't need to cash out. We can encapsulate it in a system that is 100% digital, because a lot of people, they have access to digitalization. And even like years ago, telcos, they provided balances, so you can trade with those, like for daily transactions. So it's there. There's several initiatives on the finance side. But I also think opening, the things around NFTs that open the space to more things to, to build on top of what the adoption that is generating right now. The adoption caused by stress is one, because there's a need to figure out how to pay, how to receive. The other thing is, the more organic adoption on, looking for alternatives for what we are doing right now. In particular, because I come from finance, I always stick to that, but now I'm shifting to talent and probably for an everyday person, there'll be more ways to generate value. I'll stop there, and then probably we talk about DAOs and talk about remote work, and we talk about payments all over the world. It's on the same line, but I think right now you can see that. One last thing, sorry, I took longer. There's a lot of things on blockchain that we're using right now that we don't know we're using, by the way.
Wow,
let's
yeah.
say traditional Web2 companies, they're using blockchain on, there's several ports connected through customs. We don't know we're using that.
I heard Amazon is one of the ones that has been using it. I know everybody has Amazon. Listen, they get about $600 out of me.
A lot of things, because you don't know. Probably if you use like your cell phone, you don't know all the, unless you're like a super detailed architect, you don't know all the list of things you're using. But I'm pretty sure I'm using blockchain at some point, and I don't know.
Right. So before we move on from you, Natalie, I did want to ask you. You said the term DeFi, and there might be somebody here listening that doesn't exactly know what you meant by DeFi. So can you just give us a quick definition of what DeFi is and how you're saying it's going to affect the space?
Yeah, I'll try to summarize quickly, but most of the finance is being centralized even by governments or institutions that have a lot of power. So banks, finally, right, or whatever derivative from a bank it is. But if you put together, and this is a concept that right now has a name, but it's been around like to work together to generate value. It's been around for a long time already, but right now it's more traceable, easier to implement with blockchain, crypto, and everything else. So the idea there is to have, not only the banks providing services, but people, peers providing support, like for loans. I don't know, you want to put together a loan, you can have a lot of people putting together the loan for you. And then, there's several rules that are, they're fair for everybody and not for a centralized, and this is what is called asymmetry of information, right? You have decentralization, and then what gets the value is the central organization. But in this case, the incentives, as everything is for everybody participating, providing or receiving the service or whatever we're doing. It's a longer explanation for DeFi, but I like it better that way.
Right. So what I hear you saying is that in the future, I won't have to go to a centralized place like a bank to receive a loan. I could essentially ask my peers who are on the blockchain network to support whatever endeavor I have via the blockchain technology and moving currency that way, and they would basically fund my loan.
In the future, hopefully, but we are going to be hybrid for a long time. Just to be sure,
just for a long time. But this is a path in which we can take the blockchain technology. I think that's very cool, because exactly what you said is sometimes in the centralized financial industry, certain people get treated certain ways, and there's like all this research you can do and figure out, and like how it's been utilized to oppress people and all kinds of other things. But the idea that it will no longer there's a possibility that we won't have to go to those same institutions that are known for these types of things, and we'll have more options, is an amazing idea to me. So we're going to go ahead, and my next question I have actually is, and maybe I believe that Blue or Brianna, I think you guys would probably good to answer this question. So maybe we're gonna talk a little bit more about how Amazon is using blockchain. Do either of you can talk to that a little bit more about specifically how Amazon might be using the blockchain?
I think that it could have something to do with supply chain verification, but it's news to me. I am actually really curious to hear more about how Amazon is using the blockchain.
Yeah, I don't keep up on Amazon's trajectory, and I think that for folks that are newer to the space, it's important to know what big players are doing in the Web 2 world. So that's like Web 2 is the existing, internet companies, I guess you'd call them, or companies that use Web 2 principles. So Web 3 is everything related to blockchain, AI, kind of like the newer cutting edge things that will apply to everything in the future. And yeah, so I don't personally know how Amazon's deploying it, but I imagine Amazon, just like every other Web 2 company that exists right now, is thinking and trying to think hard.
They're figuring out how they can get in there. Yeah.
Exactly. And they should be, because they're basically dinosaurs at the top of their mark these days, and they're trying to prevent the ultimate outcome, which is, if they're not preparing themselves to build upon and accept and also forward these new technologies, they will soon see themselves drifting off of the world's leading companies in the next 20-30 years.
Excellent. Okay, so I just want to say real quick, I'm taking some notes. So I hope that anybody here is listening, you're taking notes. So it might look like, I'm jotting things, because I actually am. I'm taking notes. Like I said, this conversation is for me and people like me. And this is a good time for you to make sure that you are writing down things that you want to know about, going and doing more research on them, finding how you can connect with these ladies. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the Discord. Make sure that you're checking that out. To further asking more questions. So personally, I'm taking some notes. Okay. So my next question is, what does decentralization mean to you? Because we hear the term decentralized, centralized. What do these terms mean to you? Blue.
Well, with the decentralization, we don't have a group at the top who's like pulling the strings for everybody. Just like how you were saying with, certain people not being able to get loans or having to jump through extra hoops for loans, with decentralization, it's the same process for everybody. And then we are also avoiding situations, let's say in the banking industry, like what we're seeing in Ukraine today, which is people lining up at the ATM so that they can take out their cash, because they're worried that the centralized bank is going to limit how much money they can take out of their own accounts, or that their bank cards aren't going to be working at all. And if we have a decentralized system, there isn't like one entity that can control all of that for everybody. So to me, it means more equal access. And I think that is really important when we're talking about bringing in diverse groups. And when we bring in diverse groups and diverse groups thrive, everybody thrives. It's like at its base, at its core, a human rights issue.
Absolutely. And how about you, Brianna? What does decentralization mean for you?
So yeah, it's a really good point. I think also pointing to the situations going on in the world right now with regard to Ukraine and Canada as well. The importance of kind of distributed and non-centralized ownership of things, we can start to understand the importance and how quickly things can change. So centralization means to me that it is completely decentralized, is basically completely owned by the network, and to operate truly decentralized is very difficult. Actually, I think there's only like a few good examples that I know of what we call DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. What we see a lot, it is because of a buzzword. So we see decentralized and DAOs thrown around a lot, but most organizations aren't really truly operating like a DAO. A great example for anyone who's following the NFT space of a properly executed DAO is the Nouns project. So they basically launch an NFT every day for auction. And basically when you buy one, you're now in this DAO. And if you own one, you have one vote. And then the voting system that they've actually built, which is all transparent, meaning you don't have to be in the club to even see who votes on what. So basically people submit ideas. And if you have one noun, you get one vote on how you think money should be used, what initiatives should be submitted. So they're building skate parks for kids around the world. I mean, they're deciding to build, software tools. They're deciding to donate money. And basically all of the money that's raised from people buying these things goes into this treasury that then they get to decide what to do with it. And it's kind of it's a big project funded by some OGs in the crypto and NFT space. So, nouns, I don't know what they go for, like, as of this week, but, they've gone from everywhere from 40 ETH to 100 and some ETH each. So you can imagine that since they're launching one of these every day, that treasury gets very big, very fast, probably 4 months in now. So yeah, and then they, as a DAO, get to decide, okay, what do we do with this money that we've all spent, right? And how do we want to deploy it? Do we want to build a business? Do we want to donate it? So that's a really good example for anyone who's interested in like a concrete, tangible demonstration of decentralized principles in an organization. It's a really great example. And again, you can kind of see everything according to their voting mechanisms on their website. So it's very concrete for anyone who has a hard time kind of wrapping their minds around, like, how does this work? And it's very simple, but it's coded. And that's what's nice, because, decentralization is good in principle, but if you're relying on, kind of handshakes to do it, a lot of times it ends up being semi-centralized.
Right. So I'm hearing that there is an opportunity here to really, you get to choose how your money, how your funds will be used, what projects or what initiatives are important to you, and you make sure that you are part of an organization that is really going to use your funds to do that. And I know in the past with some organizations that we have right now, there's been like all kinds of news stories and articles about how there's been misappropriation of funds by certain, like different groups that are environmentalist groups, whatever, all these groups that claim to be using the funds to do whatever, and it turns out that they're doing something totally different. But from what I'm understanding, you're saying that a DAO, and this particular DAO is a way to that we'll be using this technology now to really make our dollars count and really put it where we want it to go, if that makes sense. Okay.
And because the technology itself, like blockchain technology, is inherently mostly decentralized. It's actually not all decentralized. It kind of depends again on the way it was crafted and the owners and all of that. But say everyone does exactly what they said they'd do. Bitcoin and Ethereum network is decentralized, and but the thing is, people can use that technology, which is decentralized, in centralized manners. So even though the technology of blockchain itself, which unless has been described in a previous thing, it's basically a continuous record of transactions happening, right? And it can be monetary. We've talked a lot about financial, but it can also be, with NFTs, they can be other kind of data storage and transactions happening with those. So it's basically this ledger of all of these things. And that is transparency, right? That allows for people to understand where things are going and why. So a lot of people actually get caught when they do bad things on the blockchain. Doesn't mean they necessarily go to jail. I think one day it'll be a lot easier for the government to kind of catch up. And but yeah, like, it's very easy. And there's sort of within the communities, there's this sort of self governance to say, hey, I'm looking at your wallet, I'm seeing where the money is moving and how much, and that's not right. And people have lost jobs because of it. People have, been caught. So it's very interesting to see, how transparency, decentralization plays, and then also how human factor, which, we have our own little spin that we like to put on things to actually use and execute on the technology, can distort that. So you might, just because you hear decentralization or just because you hear DAO, it does not mean automatically that, it's operating as such.
Wow. Okay. I'm actually going to let ML and also Natalie, I also want both of you guys to answer that question for me. So what does decentralization mean to you, ML?
Actually, decentralization, I look at it from a completely different point of view, would be, hey, I can take my whatever cryptocurrency, either whatever, I can pay my authors that are in Australia what I can pay my authors in the UK. Is all the same currency. So me as a business owner, I'm actually paying less fees, and I can show that to my investors. Hey, I'm actually saving you money by doing it this way, than just going to the bank and going, okay, and now I have all these fees. This is what you're investing. Why you're investing, your ROI is less now than it was 3 months ago. This is how I'm seeing it, because it's going there. This is banking. Banking 101 says you have to keep up with the times or you die, basically. So this is where I see this is going.
Wow. So basically you have one currency essentially where you can pay everybody in the same type of currency, not worrying about the fees associated with paying them and that kind of thing. That's pretty revolutionary, I think, for businesses, especially when you're doing international business. I know that those fees can be very high, and as a result, some people tend to lose out on their funds that they could have in their pocket, and utilize it. So yeah,
if I'm
absolutely.
As an example, if I'm sending USD to Australia, I'm paying $5 to $7 extra dollars just to send that money over there. If I send it through Bitcoin, I'm paying what, 30 cents? Maybe.
Right.
It's a lot easier and less expensive for me to send a Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency, whatever they have in the wallet, than it is for me to send USD. And that's either through the bank, through PayPal, Cash App, whatever way businesses are transferring money overseas.
Wow. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Okay. And let's go ahead and answer for us, Natalie. How and what does decentralization mean to you?
So I agree with all the things. So I won't repeat that in terms of what means on technical and on the, let's say, all the concepts and also culture we are creating right now, right, on top of all the ecosystem. But whenever I explain to, let's say, corporations, it's more about cutting intermediaries, right? So we have intermediaries right now, centralization in governments, because we are relying when we are voting or whatever we're doing with the people on the government to make all the public policies and everything we need to be to have a consensus, right? So we are relying on several layers of things, and then we get back whatever regulation or whatever public services we have. So there's a lot of intermediation there. Same with companies, right? We buy something here, but it came from somewhere else. So there's like 100 intermediaries. So, but we don't know we don't have a lot of transparency there, right? Because it's centralized, and it's also, there's what I call before the asymmetry of information. So I don't know really if I'm paying $1, but it really costs if I'm doing, and I have a transparency, all the intermediaries kill. Not on the chain, probably I'll pay 10 cents, whatever. So that's one part, right? And this is nothing to do with technical things. This asymmetry of information is actually an economic term. So it's more about these dynamics and these things. This is number one. And number two is, about intermediation. We still need some people to provide guidance. Let's say who's scoring or putting together a DAO, right? Like, okay, we need at least 1, 2, 5 people, because then the governments, if we want to have consensus or we want to have everything, it could be a pain too if we need to agree, like, everybody needs to agree. So I think in the past years, there's been a lot of progress on the governance part, supported by all the tools and technical things we have, but also in the ways we organize. So that's what, I agree with all the things that you said before. And then also that, there's some part of centralization that we have all the time, and then we're paying for that, basically. And that's something that, but as I mentioned, Defi and everything. And I put this example, right? Whenever I take an Uber or whatever service, my willingness to pay, because I need to get the ride fast, so I pay more. The person giving me the ride, they receive a little bit more, but I don't know what's behind that. who's maximizing the incentives and the value of that? Uber or whatever company is in the middle. We don't get the best of that. So to decentralize that is also to decentralize incentives. But thing is, in decentralization, we are also more empowered, so we have more responsibility.
Oh, wow. We're going
Right?
to definitely get into that. Absolutely. Because I know that there's some hazards with this decentralization. But before we do that, two things. We actually have live, since we're live right now, we have the chat. If you're streaming from our website, it's on the right-hand side, and we are going to answer some questions. So feel free to pop in your questions there in the chat. And we actually have one question that we're going to bring in. But before we do that, we have another panelist is going to join us, and we're going to give her an opportunity to introduce herself. Bouquet, if she's ready to come on, we'll let her in and allow her the opportunity to introduce herself, and then we're going to get to this audience question. If Bouquet is ready. Okay. Actually, we're going to go ahead and go to we're having a little more technical issues today. So we're going to go ahead and get to the audience question. The audience question is this, ladies. What does DYOR mean to you? Do your own research. What does that mean to you? And feel free, whoever wants to go ahead and start.
Well, I advocate this a lot. I will talk crypto to my iTunes Blue, but at the same time, I'm always say, you have to research. I'm an author, so me doing research is second nature to me. If you're not comfortable investing $100, okay, start with 10. Go to Cash App does crypto. So you can get your feet wet using a small little app with $10. Or go to your free apps, learn what the space is. If you're going to invest in a stock market, okay, regular stock market, you research what the stock does, what's the trends, where it is, how much should we pay. Everything you have to do, you have to research it. You have to be mindful of where you're putting money, and then remember that you have money there so you can actually watch it and know when to pull it out or keep it there. You have to learn the market, but you also have to learn where to put the money. Don't just trust someone you meet on Facebook, Instagram, whatever thing else. Oh, I'm in blockchain. Give me $1,000 and I invested for it. Don't start there. If it doesn't feel right, don't start there. Start doing it yourself and then work up.
Right. That kind of goes back to that decentralization piece and what Natalie is speaking to, that we have a lot of responsibility in this space. Like, you have to get your feet wet and do it yourself. And you also touched a little bit on the last part of the question I see here and can big tech be trusted partners? Blue, go ahead.
For the question on can big tech be trusted partners, I don't know. I mean, I feel like they had their chance and they kind of blew it. And now we have our chance. You know, in Web3, a big difference between Web2 and Web3, in Web2, we can create content. In Web3, we own it. And we also can own the platforms. You know, a lot of what we've seen in the Web3 space, it's just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't even really arrived yet. And so I would really love to see what happens when not big tech comes in to help build out a space where we're like co-owning it, co-stewarding the platforms that we are functioning on. Some people say that big tech cannot be trusted partners because they have already shown us that we can't trust them. And why trust them when there are other people who are saying that they can do it better, including all of ourselves. If we're like co-owning a platform, just like in real life, when people co-own a thing, like let's say a co-op or something in real life, it's going to be managed better than if it is owned by somebody who's like a centralized entity that is located far away. So I would be really interested to see how Web3 gets built out without big tech. And if people are also going to trust new emerging platforms that are not controlled by big tech, because another trend that I'm seeing too is that when people see a big brand behind something, including a big tech name, they're kind of like flocking to that thing because we're attracted to what is familiar to us. I think there's also going to have to be a trend of trying something new and trusting new people, and that's going to take a lot of trial and error. It's lots of unknowns, but to me that's one of the things that's really exciting about the space is that we're all building it together and we don't really quite know what it's going to be yet. However, I think the success of it is going to depend a lot on our individual involvement, our group involvement, to build out something that is really going to benefit society as a whole.
Wow, thanks, Blue. And I think to what you were saying, like the fact that you're going to have so many new people that are going to be offering and that have done their research and that are coming to this space and then offering other people goods and services or however they're interacting with the space. I think that comes back to the question of what does do your research mean, right? Like you have to get in front of it and you have to be a steward of this yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I and then also just to kind of touch on like what does do your own research mean to me? I think, you know, I wish that what I had been told when I first started is to just like go really slowly and take in a way more information than you want. You know, when you feel like it's too much information, then maybe at that point you're ready to invest. There were some lessons that I had to learn the hard way, but yeah. And then just to kind of, you know, let's say the big tech question. If they're willing to come in and play by our rules, which are decentralization, community, and transparency, then I think maybe they can like, we can play ball, you know? But if they're not willing to abide by those values, I think there are people who are going to be able to do it better. And a really good example is, let's say, storytelling in the media, the mainstream media, which, you know, is controlled by a small group of people, these producers and directors who've been around forever and are really calling the shots, and also writers who are telling the same stories over and over again, and like kind of like slowly like brainwashing us to view society in a really certain way, which is how we see, like, let's say, tropes and how women are presented, for example. In Web3, and where there's more community involvement and where holders are being able to call the shots and write the script of their own story, we're going to see stories that are more interesting and more fleshed out characters, and maybe stories that are even better for society to hear, and certainly more creative content.
Ooh. Absolutely. I love that idea. Natalie, Brianna, would you like to touch on that for us? What does do your own research mean for you? And can big tech be trusted partners?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has expressed it really eloquently already. It's so important for anyone that's new in the space. If you're like wanting to really dive in, don't do it blindly. Go to the places where people are talking about these things. You can learn a lot from YouTube tutorials. You can go on Twitter and follow a bunch of really intelligent people in the space who will actually like answer questions and point you to resources. Now, if you don't want to, you know, go in like all in terms of diving in deep, and you don't want to spend 40 hours researching about NFTs, crypto, all that kind of stuff, then again, really only risk what you can completely afford to lose, that you wouldn't even bat an eyelash, because it is a very volatile market. And even if you've been in the space for a long time, veterans lose money too. They have bad bets. So whether it's from a collecting art phase or, you know, buying Bitcoin, or whether you're finance and you're wanting to trade, or you're just collecting NFTs, if it's anything monetary at all, just make sure that you are, and do your own research can mean different things depending on what you're actually getting into. So for you know, finance, it's more like looking at the token actually, it is very similar. Look at the teams behind it. What have they launched before? Are they trusted? Are they doxed? Meaning, like, do we know their true identities? What have they done before? Have they done other projects that, they left behind? That's a big, red flag. And do you want to invest in something that they're doing now? So it's just really important to do that research to help, less bridges be burned, I guess. And by bridges, I mean things in your wallet, because it is very easy to lose things in your wallet. And it's also very easy for the things in your wallet to lose value. So if you want to try to avoid those things, which I highly recommend, it's kind of across the board. I think anyone in crypto is like trying to do those two things across the board. You really have to either spend time or just be willing to risk more, because it's very easy to get scammed. It's very easy for teams to just go away, and also for things to get stolen, because when true decentralization, it means that you're a steward of your own assets. So when they if they get hacked, there's no bank that's going to protect or refund you. So in the same way that your money's sitting in a bank and you have some on paper at least some protection of up to a certain amount, someone does a fraud check, you get that money back. There's nothing like that in blockchain. So you're just at the will of yourself and what you've learned and the best practices that you've implemented.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brianna. Like it's a very, very important thing that you said there when you said that about how you are risking things, and it's very easy to lose things in your wallet, like, and how important that ties into what you know about what you're going into. And of course that circles back to doing your own research. Natalie, go ahead.
So I have a position here as David advocates. You know what happened probably 20 years ago, and so with open source, which is some type of decentralization, but everything is centralized when you go to GitHub or some place to consume code or some other places. But I think right now corporations, big tech already play the part. If you see, there's a lot of contributions from the community, and there have been, but the ecosystem was built by in the last years. The top organizations that were contributed at the very beginning were universities, as because they were students of the universities. But right now, top contributors are Google and Microsoft to open source. So they play the part. Of course, they want to be connect their things that are corporate, Web2 or whatever, to the ecosystem. So I think at some point they're gonna manage to play the part, not to be like, okay, this is centralization and we're gonna play the part of extracting all the value that I have and cannibalizing whatever. But at some point, I think they have the resources to do things. So if they figure out how to play the part on, let the centralization happen and all the technology be there, I'm pretty sure they can release, products and services that are completely decentralized, and they can, because right now we're centralized. Like, we can be 100% decentralized. No, we go to internet to the route, like half of the routers and telecommunications equipments are either Cisco or some other brand. So we are centralized at the end because we run all different, and then we go all the way up. So we are going to be hybrid. I don't know if forever, but we're gonna do that. So I think big techs, right now I'm not really happy on what, for instance, Facebook is doing with what calling metaverse and Meta and whatever, and then companies as Microsoft and Amazon having this completely managed blockchain, like you can just deploy in 10 seconds. Because this is not really like decentralized blockchain, right? It's decentralized on their cloud. So you have like layers that are centralized. So anyway, I think they would start to figure out how to play the part, how to empower what everybody's doing. Mm-hmm. And that'll be, they did it with open source. I expect that to happen there, because otherwise they'll be, off. So
Right. So kind of going back to what Blue was saying, like we're gonna expect them to play by our rules in this space. Like, that's probably the best bet based on their history. It's probably if they can come to us correct, like I like we might say, my friends come correct, or don't come at all. Like, so that's what we can look for. And if these big tech companies can really step up to the plate in that way, then we could see about like, trusting them as partners. And I think that's a great idea. So we're going to go ahead and now we're going to bring Bouquet actually up to the stage. She's going to join our panel. Come on in, Bouquet.
Hi.
Hi. Go ahead and introduce yourself for us.
Here. Hello, guys. You pronounced my name perfectly. My name is Bouquet. And I'm the founder and creator of House of Queens. I get into NFTs like last year, and I was learning. I'm a designer. I'm based in New York, and I've been designing for diamond companies over a decade now. So my NFT journey started a little bit like about like investing in NFTs as a collector, and as I get into it, I really saw the potential and the people, the community, and especially with the women. There was like I saw like many powerhouse women. They were supporting each other, which was like so inspiring. And so like I feel like I'm learning every day to allow the space between where I am and where I want to go. And so it was inspiration for me. So I started this project like 4 or 5 months ago, and it's growing. And my collection is about empowering women. And I was like, for a long time, I was thinking how I can empower women, how I can help them. So also, I'm very passionate about art and music. As an artist, I want to inspire and teach other people to how they can create and like basically produce their own art. So I collaborate. I actually partner up with this company called Trap XR, which is like DJ platform and music production platform. And we will be teaching our holders how they can create their own music NFTs and their own music production, and they will be able to DJ in Metaverse. And so I'm super excited about that. And we will be actually launching today, and which is like so exciting.
Super exciting. Congratulations.
Thank
Super
you. I just got back
exciting.
to New York from California, like basically yesterday. And I've been there for over, like, I was visiting my family for almost 6 months because New York is a little bit crazy right now. So I took a break, went to, spend time with my family during pandemic. So I'm back to my normal schedule now. I'm getting used to it. So yeah, I'll try it.
Great. Thank you so much, Bouquet, for joining us. Okay, so now we're going to take it back to that question that kind of came up for me when Natalie, we were speaking about decentralization. So we hear a lot in the space about money scams and how people have gotten scammed out of monies by, trying to invest in this token. But I know that there are other hazards in this space. I'm not gonna call them scams, but there's other hazards in this space. So can you ladies expound on either some of the money scams or some of the other hazards that you found in this space? And whoever wants to go first, just go ahead and unmic. Go ahead, Blue.
Yeah, I think when it comes to money stuff, in some ways there has been a trade-off between us and the traditional finance world, where we give them our money and they're investing it for themselves, but in return we get the security of knowing that it should be there when we want it to be there, right? And so in the decentralized finance world and crypto world, we don't get that anymore. We are our own bank. And that is something that's really important for people to understand, that when we hold all of our money, it's like a high risk, high reward situation. We can invest it ourselves and we can get the returns that previously were only available to the traditional finance world. But on the other hand, we have to protect our assets very carefully, and it's so easy to lose them. I mean, I see stories all the time about people getting scammed, and there's also a lot of stories about people who just like forgot their seed phrase and are not able to access their assets anymore. That those are risks that we didn't have to take when the banks were in charge of our money, but also this system wasn't really working for us 100% either. So either way, there's a trade-off there. Those are some risks financially. Another risk that I'm kind of worried about, though, is a lack of censorship in this space. When everything is decentralized and there isn't, like a centralized entity that is saying that, like, you can say this and you can say that, or like these kinds of images are appropriate and these kinds of images are inappropriate. That is something that I see as kind of a hazard in this space potentially, where there is some messaging and images that are very harmful, and with a lack of censorship and lack of centralization, we could see those living out in the open where they could do harm. And yeah, that's one thing I'm a little bit worried about.
Wow, absolutely. So, yeah, I think that's very important that our own, you are responsible, but it does open the door to the other side of that, which is you are responsible. Natalie, go ahead, since you're the one that sparked the question in my head for me. Go ahead and answer that for me. What other hazards are there in this space?
The other thing that I've seen, so two things, right? One is the technical side, which I'm a technical person. I can read code, I can write code, I can review contracts, I can trace, addresses, I can review things, but then probably there's some things that I'm not an expert on a lot. So if you really need to rely on your own technical or your organizations or your community technical, expertise to be safe. Well, that's something that we really need to see, like how to mitigate those risks, right? Because even if I, I had a wallet one day, I was doing some things like with some few dollars, right? So I was, clicking here and there and making experiments, and then the wallet went through zero. So it was a hot wallet, right? I think it has $40, and then so I was experimenting. Of course, I have my order stuff, something with a ledger and everything, safe. But then I said, I did nothing wrong, like for sure, according to me. And I was reviewing things, what I was signing and everything. So I said, this is extremely dangerous, right? So on that side, the technical side is, we don't have, right now there's audits going on and everything. So there's peer-to-peer interaction to keep us safe. But that's something that it's, everybody's seen some rug pull or whatever, there's a lot of things of that. The other part is that, whenever we have one of these scams, we cannot get the police involved, which is centralized, or government or judge or whatever, right? So there's been some conciliation efforts on blockchain for a long time already, to reconcile whatever disagreements we can have. But the thing is, right now, and I had these conversations in the past weeks, what if a DAO fails? We need a counterpart that could be legally established. What should we establish? A nonprofit, a for-profit, or whatever? Like, do we really need to do that? I don't know. So, whenever we step to the old world and we need money to pay rent or we need somebody to defend us, we don't really need to get there. But at some point, we need some order support system to do that. So there's risks, there's regulations, there's legal stuff that we are not, right now we're experimenting. And then, whatever country we are, we get this regulation, and then all our funds are off, or nothing what we did is valid. So it's complicated. And let me tell you this. I worked with regulators before. I asked questions to them. I didn't lobby, but I sat with them, and then they said, what? They run a lot of simulations and a lot of things to let people be and to be protected. Some of them, of course, they have their own agenda. Some others, they have really good intentions, and they are very technical, and they really want to do things right. But to do things right, they need to break things. yeah, so it's what they need to do. So it's very difficult for us to be in this war and trying to make things better, to rely on people that really have good intentions, others that they don't have good intentions for sure, right? They want to maximize whatever they're doing. So that's the thing right now. We're exploring where's the intersection of things, and I'm pretty sure that we are overseeing something right now that is gonna burst after. I don't know what. So that's what's gonna happen, and yeah, I'm probably everybody having a MetaMask, they have something, and then they're gonna run with the money. I don't know. I mean, I review code and everything, so.
Right. Bouquet, go ahead and answer that for me. Like, what hazards, like maybe from the NFT side, have you been seeing with your interaction in this space?
For me, I'm sorry. Go. Sorry.
Bouquet. Yeah, Bouquet. Go ahead.
Yeah. For me, when I got into NFTs, actually, I experienced scam, and I really thought like it was like actually project.
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
When I got into NFTs, and I live in New York, and my friends are mostly involved in NFT projects, and they're running their own. But like when I was like getting into it, they were like, mostly they told me like they're male, so they told me it's male dominated space. It's like it's so hard to get in as a woman to space. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go experiment by myself. And first thing I was like, okay, I picked a project. It seemed like great, and I was like, okay, I left the art. Even if it doesn't work, I'm okay to use this as a PFP. But I accidentally minted from the actually different project. It was like scam, and first experience was like scam. I got scammed, and also I felt like really bad because I thought I did my research, I did my like all the things I have to do. I made a list what I have to check. I checked everything. It seemed like okay, but it's so in NFTs it's a little bit like I think harder, because in crypto space I actually probably most of them like it's hard to not to get scammed. But if you do, actually everyone has to do their own research. But first experience was I got a little bit scared. I was like I tried to be more careful, and actually that part was like a little bit scary. But as I learned, in NFT space it's so like hard to find the right projects. Like actually easy to find right projects, but not easy to find their own on OpenSea basically.
All right. So I hear what you're saying is that like even with some due diligence, you were still like, scammed. And so there's still there's a hazard that even with your own research, you could still fall into a scam trap. So how important it is to understand that everybody in this space is growing, and how everybody in this space is learning, and how there's still viable products out there or opportunities out there. Just because one didn't go well doesn't mean you should stop. And just understand that even sometimes when you do research, you can still be scammed. And this whole space right now is still very much has the potential to be a hazardous space. So thank you so much for that, Bouquet.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brianna. What about you? I know you have had to have seen some. You've been in this for a while. So what hazards have you seen in this space?
I've pretty much seen them all. After you start diving into the Web3 space, you either by proxy see them happen to friends, people or yourself. And that again is why it's so important to iterate. Again, this is like the stock market on steroids if you're treating it from an investment point of view. So every dime that you put in should be money that you can totally walk away from and not bat an eyelash. And even though when the numbers go up, you're like, you will miss that. It's what I'm saying is though, it's very likely to get scammed. And so like, it's kind of like riding a bike, you fall once and then you get back on the bike and you start learning better. Right. So you definitely do research, but you also want to just kind of accept it. Like if it happens, just accept it, learn from the mistake, don't make that mistake ever again. So yeah, some examples that I've seen, definitely ones we've referenced in the NFT space that Bouquet referenced. So you can basically sign things. So for those of you that are in the NFT space and have like a MetaMask wallet or something comparable, you're asked to authorize transactions, and by that you need to sign and authorize things. There are malicious things. So like you could be going to mint an NFT project, which actually has a malicious, basically line of code in the contract that says secretly, hey, I'm going to now take access to your wallet and be able to drain the funds. That's really fun. So you're going to buy something and then all of your money disappears. I've heard several people mention hot wallet. So there's hot wallets and cold wallets, or cold wallets also referred to as hardware wallets. So that's like an extra security mechanism. I won't go into detail because, again, that could be like a whole talk on its own. But hot wallet is much more susceptible to scams because a hardware wallet, a cold wallet, basically adds a layer of protection where you need to type in a code on a physical device to authorize a transaction. But again, we just talked about how you can actually give authorization without knowing it, right? So a hardware wallet's not the end all be all. And that hardware wallet has a password, which you can also lose. And so like, these are all things that, if you've heard of the kind of memes around boating accidents in crypto, like that's kind of one of those, it's an expression for that. So someone had a hardware wallet with all their crypto on it or a portion of it, and, they lost it in a boating accident, meaning it went overboard. But again, that could just be like, you literally lost it. You could lose it traveling. And there are, backup mechanisms. So a very brief, run through is usually you want multiple hardware wallets, multiple hot wallets, and you want 3 copies of every wallet's seed phrase, which is the kind of like the password, the ultimate password to recover it. And then those 3 copies need to be in different places and have their different security measures, and you should never share them with anyone. But again, maybe you teeter on that and you say, well, actually, like I have a safe with my family because it needs to be kept safe from me losing it, or in the event of something happening to someone. I think about that a lot. A lot of people say never share your seed phrase ever, and it's like I actually put an asterisk on that because there's a lot of people that anything could happen at any moment. And does someone that you really trust have access to your funds? Because if something happens to you and you're not able to communicate, what happens to all that money, right? So I think it's very important to, once you become more ingrained in this and the deeper you dive, to really educate yourselves on these best practices and communicate with people who are, maybe close to you. Maybe it's even like a lawyer, for example. And basically, put these best practices into place, because I've seen them all, and you just carry on. So the good thing about crypto, we always hear the saying, you're here early, because it doesn't feel early still, but it still is, especially in regards that the mass adoption has just been insane this past year. I never saw NFTs as being the mechanism to propel us into mass adoption, but it happened, and that's delightful. I'm very pleased about that. But we are still early when we talk about global mass adoption. So if you lose everything, I've personally had assets that where you leave money on an exchange and you forget about it, and it wasn't that much money, but then suddenly, like 3 years later, it's a lot, and that exchange goes down, or that exchange gets hacked. So again, these are why these understanding what's centralized, what's decentralized is so important, because you might think you're, by moving my money into this exchange, it's safe. It's like, but it's not. That exchange is not going to bat for you. You have, who's the team that even runs that? It's your funds are not protected. So if that exchange, which is kind of like a bank in itself, if they get hacked, your funds are susceptible. Maybe your funds are actually hacked. Maybe your funds weren't hacked, but they freeze all the accounts and you can't touch it. Maybe the founders of that project actually just close the website and take all the money and run, right? And they kind of had ways to prepare, for that. So there's all these different ways that can happen. Just know that it's never like 100% safe, in any in any like place you put it. But that's why it's important to try and kind of keep everything in different places, and also with best practices.
Absolutely. That was some great golden nuggets. I hope guys are out here taking notes. ML, you're gonna round this out, and then we're gonna go to a quick intermission after that. So what other hazards have you seen, like maybe from a business owner side, in the space?
Before I started doing NFTs for the ebooks, I was discussing with my daughter, because my daughter's more tech savvy than I am. She's younger generation, young. So she's like, Mom, you don't want to go into NFTs right now because everyone's getting their stuff stolen. Well, books are pirated every day. It doesn't matter if it's an NFT or an ebook regularly. So that doesn't change anything, but at the same time, it adds in the NFT world a little bit more protection, but not really. They can pirate the cover. They can pirate the download and resell it, whatever. But at the same time, it happens every day. So I wasn't seeing it as a risk. On the flip side, then you have all these people that get a hold of you on LinkedIn, Shaper, all their networking sites, not just the regular social media. You have to use this Bitcoin. You have to use this NFT site. You have to be mindful of what they're telling you, and do your research that works for you, because otherwise you don't know who these people are, especially if they're just randomly getting a hold of you. They could be scammers. They could be legitimate. You have to be mindful of what you're doing at all times.
Absolutely. So thank you guys so much. Stick around with us. We're going to go to a quick intermission, and we'll be right back.
Right. So, yeah, great conversation, great insights and perspectives on a lot of different topics in the blockchain ecosystem. And we will be continuing the conversation right after this quick intermission. Welcome back. Welcome back. And we will be rejoining the conversation with Tam and the panel. First, we do want to remind you that we do have sponsors for this event, and you can find them in our Discord. We have a section called Celebrate Her, where you can find more info on our sponsors, which include Block, Hero, Definistry, as well as Copper Seed Safe. Also, if you join our Discord, you will be able to connect with the community. We have a section called Community Connects, and you can continue the conversations there as well. So just make sure you connect with us in all the ways you have available to you. Make sure you tweet and share your experiences using our hashtags, which you will see scrolling along the bottom. Hashtag IWBEmpower, IWBEVent 2022, and Celebrate Her. All right, back to you, Tam.
There we go. Sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much, Tasha. So the final question I actually have is, this is going to be another one that's for everybody, to kind of close out our conversation here. I really want to ask each and every one of you, because you are involved in this space in different ways. What is your vision for the future of this space? What do you hope to see in the future? We'll go ahead and start with you, Bouquet.
Yes, for me, as a in crypto and NFT space, the vision is I don't believe that the opportunities are endless, and now it's like we only have like 16% of the in crypto it's female. Now it's like I really believe that we can invite more women into crypto space. So I think that for me, it's just like where it comes to education, I think we all should focus on how we can educate each other, how we can share our knowledge with each other, and create spaces to share our experiences, especially if we have like some issues with the crypto or NFTs, or if we experience something like we think like helps each other. I think sharing those experiences, like being the like bigger community as a like, especially with women, I really experienced that like women-led projects. Like I've been getting so much support, and I'm kind of like blown away, because as an artist point, I never felt like I was like supported or recognized or like appreciated in that way. But I think space has been so new, and we can all help each other. So I think that's where we can start. That's my for the future of the NFTs. I really don't know where it's going, to be honest, but I really see that, and it's gonna evolve. It's gonna bring more opportunities, and it's gonna like it's gonna be for everyone. Because if you're like accountant, or if you're an artist, or if you're a software engineer, or if you're like mom, and I think it's like everyone can be part of it. And I think this space will give many women to independence. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. And as far as like from my experience, and I'm relatively new, but I'm learning it as I go. So I feel like there's a future and lots of opportunities in NFTs for every woman. So I think we should invite more women into participate in the NFTs. But I think first we need to educate them, because it's really scary. Because as I get scammed like a couple of times, so I'm kind of like when I was like in NFTs, I got scared. I was like, I don't know how I was gonna run this project, and first thing I thought was like, I need to create a team, and I need to find right people to like show me their experience. Luckily I found like good people which I can trust, and so I'm still learning. So I still call myself as a newbie, but yeah.
I absolutely love that vision. More women in this space, more women led, more community between women in this space. And I can definitely see it happen, because I know that it opens up opportunities, literally like our conference today, across the globe for women to connect, to find our tribe. And I just appreciate you so much, Bouquet, for making that point. Go ahead, Blue. What is your vision for the future of this space?
I think that there are so many opportunities for people to have not just representation, but opportunity for prosperity, and being able to live out their dreams and carve out a place for themselves in Web3. One really clear example for this is, let's say, in the massive PFP project movement, where now we're seeing not just like, let's say, female PFPs, but they're kind of like it going into more and more specific niches. And this is how people are going to be able to find people who are, close to them, and grow community with like-minded individuals, which I think is really exciting, and how people who are really far away can come together and make really amazing things happen in ways that were not possible before. We also have verifiable proof of ownership through blockchain technology, and that's going to make some things really streamlined if we're able to adopt them in a safe way, in a sustainable way. And so things like, passports, medical records, birth certificates, and all of this stuff can be saved on the blockchain. And, when it's permanently stored, you don't have to worry about like, oh my God, there's a meme where like, you're just going about your daily life and it's like, oh my God, I don't know where my social security card is, In the future on blockchain, we won't have to worry about that because it will be stored on, theoretically a private wallet with all of these important documents that are specifically tied to your identity. So there are implications for that too. So for example, when let's say immigration, for example, where you need like verifiable documents, this will be provided on the blockchain. Your immunization records, for example, will be verified on the blockchain. I can't tell. I don't even know how many new vaccine cards I've had, and so there's a lot of potential for streamlining information like that. Another thing that I think is really important to note is sustainability through blockchain technology. One way to tackle this is through supply chain verification. And this is also a way for us to make sure that the things that we are consuming are also ethically produced. So there's some really exciting things, in my vision for the future in blockchain, and I can't wait to see them come to fruition in the best way possible with no negative consequences whatsoever.
Absolutely. Thank you, Blue. I love the fact that you brought in like there's going to be hopefully a way for us to hang on to important documents, because I'm one of those people. That's why I laugh so hard. I am guilty of being like, where's my social security card? Oh my God, I have no idea where it's at this very moment. But that technology being able to help me in my memory, that technology also being able to change the way that we interact with our environment and making sure that we are being responsible and making sure that we're sustaining this planet is a huge impact. And I hate that we didn't get a chance to get into it today, but we got more Wednesdays ahead, and hopefully we'll have you back, Blue, and we'll go into a little bit more deeper discussion about that. ML, go ahead and let us know, what is your vision for the future of the space?
Well, there's a lot of open doors right now. It's going to be interesting in the next 5 to 10 years to see actually which doors stay open and which ones that get closed. It's going to depend on how much we allow the governments to get into the regulation or not regulating. It's going to see how corporations, if they play by the rules that we set or if they take control, because we have to have a big brother watching over things. This is the mindset. It's going to be very interesting on how things play out. But at the same time, I'm anxious to have where I don't have to have my birth certificate, passport, all these paper products laying around that I lose constantly, that I'm always having to have resent to me. I'm one of those people. I probably have 20 birth certificates laying around because I've lost them in the last 6 months.
Yeah, they get expensive.
They do. When you're paying, astronomical fees for a piece of paper, let's be honest, is a piece of paper with a stamp on it. It doesn't make sense when I can store it on the computer and just say, oh, here's my phone, just scan it. Or here's, whatever, just scan it. And it's the same thing as a piece of paper. At the same time, I love my paper books. So we'll see where this goes.
Absolutely. ML, thank you so much. I'm a fan of paper books too. I have to say that. Like, I like to flip a page, but this technology will make it so that even though I like flipping the pages, when those pages are worn, I can still access that book. And so that's a good idea as well. Like, those paper products
to marry the two. So
marry the two.
Paper book, you still get the ebook or the NFT version of the ebook.
Right. Absolutely. That is wonderful. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Brianna. Let us know, what is your vision for this future of this space?
Yeah, I think there's some great pictures that have been painted thus far. And I'll speak a little bit maybe towards the metaverse, since that hasn't been such a topic, but how all these technologies will kind of converge in the future, and how we kind of see that playing out. But of course, I think built on blockchain tech, which we'll see more products, enhanced user experience, which is going to be crucial to safety, security, and also just onboarding, new people. It's for anyone who's dabbled in the space, you can probably know firsthand that it's very hard, like it's very complex. And I remember trying to buy Bitcoin back in 2012, so believe me, it was worse. But it's gonna improve. And in terms of like the metaverse ecosystem, so I think that we really are moving towards a direction of having a more three-dimensional internet. And so you might see in the future that in the way that we absorb our internet content today is very much like a newspaper. And I think in the future, people will look back and be like, wow, I can't believe they read newspapers on their screens for so long. Like for 20 years, they read newspapers on a screen. So we'll start to see more three-dimensionality and also bridging of digital and physical experience. So hardware obviously is a big part of that. So virtual reality hardware, but augmented reality is probably going to be the first mechanism that really starts to bridge our digital and physical environments more and more. As soon as the first kind of hardware is developed that, again, like NFTs, starts to become mass adopted, that will really change things. And then when you have, blockchain integrated into all these things, you have these mechanisms for play to earn, learn to earn, everything that was once centralized, which big tech, big data, basically taking your data, similar to the banks, how they're taking your money and they're holding it, but they're actually making money off of all of our money in the bank. Big tech is the same way, but they're harvesting your data and then they're selling off your data to the highest bidder. So when things are more decentralized, you realize that Facebook and Instagram and all these big players, they're only valuable if people use them, right? They're only valuable because of the content that we provide. And so we're going to transition more into this really being paid for content that you deliver. And Web2 companies, some have started to do that, Snapchat, TikTok, they pay creators, YouTube pays percentage of ads, but we're going to start seeing decentralized models of that work really well. And the second one of those gets adopted, it's going to be enormous and it's going to completely shutter everything else. Because why would you spend 3 hours scrolling on Instagram when you could be making thousands of dollars for the content that you're being provided on another platform that's decentralized? And your fans, your friends, your family, whoever it is, could actually be contributing to that. So it's almost like this hybrid model of Patreon, if anyone's heard of Patreon, coming together with, your social media like Twitter or Instagram, and also Etsy, right? So it's think of something that actually encapsulates all those things. And it's not just a marketplace, it's just the place that you go and everything can be transacted. But it's also social. So it can be monetary, it can be e-commerce, we'll call it, but it's also your social experience. It could also be a game that you play. So that's the power of three-dimensionality, because when you have an avatar that's running around, we think of it as a video game, but it's also a social experience when you're playing with, us 6 in a room right now, we are having a virtual experience. So imagine if we were in a three-dimensional world where you can also be oh, cool, what's in her wallet? Oh, that's for sale. I want to buy her art right now, right? On this screen, you could. So think of those kind of things, and, death be to Zoom and Web2 centralized data extraction, and hopefully it'll be more distributed to the people that are really providing the value on the platforms.
I absolutely love that. As a content creator myself, who is kind of struggling to kind of break into that and getting into these different creator funds, whatever they're calling them, and I know I have people in my community that support me. I know I have people around me that support me. It's going to be so cool to be able to be you're supporting directly me, right? You're not supporting Facebook plus me or whoever else plus me. It's just me. And I think that is a great way, like you said, to build that community. And I also think that the augmentation that we're going to start seeing, and how more of this Web3 space is going to be put into our daily lives in the 3D world or whatever, it's going to be amazing. I cannot wait to see what this space is going to offer. And I love that vision as well. And then finally, last but certainly not least, Natalie, go ahead and share what your vision is for the future of this space with us.
So I want to add on top of all the wonderful things everybody shared on this panel about, open opportunities, inclusion, different ways to collaborate and to get the best of value. But the only thing that I think it's real is that as any other thing that it's being growing and adapting, it has up and downs. So right now, I think actually we have a bubble that's going to burst. And that's not something that, I'm a systems engineer. So I see systems are not technical systems, are systems in general, right? And we got to expect that regardless if we have a very well built a project and everything and all the scam that is going on and, things that are built on top of, nothing or something, but that where we see value, right? So we understood already the value of blockchain, but proof of stake, proof of work, we can talk about that like for a long time in terms of crypto, and blockchain. But for blockchain, consensus or whatever is built on top of that, and transparency and whatever value it provides. But then the other thing is, we took hundreds of thousands of years to accept some things, but for the value it has. And I think right now probably they're going up and down in terms of value, but they're going up and down, right? Oil, art, let's say gold, whatever. So we need to expect that, and we need to be not because I want to prevent. I mean, I'm pushing people to get to the space, right? Not only on NFTs, but on DeFi, on a lot of other projects. But we need to be sure that we think on the longer term, right? But that we see like we need to keep pushing, evangelizing that there's going to be things happening, that there's going to be bubbles that are going to burst, and then probably we're going to be affected. But we need to see this big picture and to keep that on the long run. Probably I flip some NFTs. I'm not on the NFT space at all. I'm just a pure consumer. I put some things here and there. I've had a lot of time to research. That was pure luck, really. I've seen projects that I love, that I invest and some time to, do promotion and everything. Some others that I just bought that, and then it went all the way up to 5-6 ETH. I don't know. So there's some part of art, there's some part of analysis, and there's some part like myself being a systems engineer to see what's going on. So just wanted to add that because that's the real thing. It's not because I'm a party pooper and I'm gonna say it and it's gonna turn real, but we need to see the big picture. That happened with the internet 20-something years ago. It's gonna happen, but we need to rely on the longer term because we are doing good things. By having this panel, by talking, by evangelizing, by generating those spaces for inclusion, those safe spaces, and to generating value for everybody. But we need to expect some things ups and downs. So that's what it is. So let's keep pushing.
Absolutely. Let's keep pushing. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Bouquet. Thank you, Blue Moon. And thank you, ML, guys, for providing so much value today. I really appreciate you guys coming out and educating me. I got my notes, and I'll be back here next Wednesday with another Worldwide Web3 Wednesday, where we'll continue the conversation on how we are being impacted by this blockchain technology. Thank you, ladies, again. And be sure to connect with each of our speakers in our Discord. And at this time, we're going to go ahead and pass it on to Lavina, our host. And thank you guys again so much. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.
Wow, what an amazing panel discussion. Absolutely loved it, ladies. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your energy and really talking to us about the importance around collaboration, around education and security. And this is something that all ties in very well together in terms of our digital identity and what that really means. With regards to mentioned around socio-economics or social economy. And that's something one of our sponsors, Block, is actually busy with in terms of content creation, banking for social media influencers. And, that just reminded me so much about the interoperability and the flexibility that we're actually going to have when we come to, the full integration points of Web3. And I guess, again, it's just all such an amazing, collaboration and effort from everyone. So we appreciate each one of you, ladies. And everybody, please remember to hashtag, tweet, go crazy. This was an absolute fire talk, and we look forward to next Wednesday and have everyone around again. Next up, we have Blue, and she was on our panel earlier on today, and she is our next featured speaker. Blue Moon is an environmental activist. In parts of her conversation earlier on, she really spoke around the ethical applications and the sustainability, which we all can absolutely relate to. She is passionate about bridging the gap between blockchain and the environment. So, with no further ado, I would love to call on her. However, we're going to give everyone a bit of a yoga stretch. So, absolutely well needed. Grab some water, get a stretch, and we'll see you back in a few minutes. Further ado, I'm going to absolutely hand over to Blue. I just want to say absolute appreciation. Hashtag empower her, empower them, because they were phenomenal. And let's celebrate each and every single one of them. So one of the questions that I kind of had in terms of the space for the ladies, which we could maybe do next week, Wednesday, is delving into how digital identity could actually, welcome back.
Hi. Well, hello. I'm Blue Moon. Like I said in the last panel, I am is a art, sustainability, and tech forward NFT collective and platform, and a project that I am doing. It's actually like my first project that I'm leading is a project called One Drop NFTs. And the question that One Drop NFTs presents is the NFT world ready for just one drop of menstrual blood in their wallets? So this is the question that that I seek to answer, or to have an answer to. And let me tell you a little bit about the background behind this and why I thought it was really important. Actually, I'll start with the goals. So the goals of One Drop NFTs are, number one, to destigmatize menstruation through gender-based and other gender-based issues through discussion and art, to raise funds for charities focused on addressing period poverty and girls' education, and to raise visibility of female artists in the NFT space. So I'll tell you a little bit more about how we're going to, as a community, address all of these goals now. But first, a little bit of background and inspiration. Why menstruation? So we've seen censorship of menstruation in real life, in Web 2, and in the Web 1 world. So I want to tell you a little bit about some of these experiences or things that happen. So on the left here, you see an ad from Thinks Period Panties. And this, I'll describe it for you. There's just like some raw egg dripping over the side of a cube, and a woman in her underwear just like bent over on a stool. And this is an ad that was set to be displayed in the New York subway systems, and the Metropolitan Transit Authority sent them back to Think, saying that they were inappropriate as ads. Now, considering I'm not really sure what exactly is inappropriate about this, because we have seen eggs in advertisements. We've even seen women in underwear in advertisements. But if it's paired with the suggestion that it's about menstruation, suddenly it becomes inappropriate for public viewing. So this kind of caused a little bit of an outrage, an outcry, and ultimately Thinks was able to display these ads in the subways, but I never forgot about it. And then in the middle, you'll see this is fabulous drag queen Manila Luzon from RuPaul's Drag Race, which is a drag queen competition reality show. She recently walked the runway in a runway theme that was called Curves and Swerves. And this is the dress that she originally planned to wear. It features it's a beautiful fishtail ball gown with a pad with, that mirrors the hourglass shape of a woman. And it has, a streak of blood coming down the middle, going out into the red fishtail hem. So this really happened. The RuPaul told Manila Luzon that this dress was inappropriate and she couldn't walk down the runway in this dress. And this is really shocking, considering the fact that the whole RuPaul's Drag Race, like the whole thing about drag, according to RuPaul, is female impersonation. And yet drag queens are not allowed on that platform to impersonate or to make art about this thing that is a very real experience for many women around the world, like most women. And we never really get to see art with the theme of menstruation, and to show it in a drag context, I think is really groundbreaking. And yet she was not allowed to walk down the runway like this. And her reasoning for making this look in general is to show that women can be sickening even when they're on their period, which is such a powerful message for any woman or girl to hear. And yet she was barred from being able to show this on national television. On the right, we see artist Rupi Kaur, and she is in bed, and there is a bloodstain on her pants and on the sheets. It's a very relatable experience for people who menstruate. And this is a photo that she had on her Instagram. It was taken down not once, but twice for violating community guidelines, despite the fact that there's minimal skin showing. And again, it's the suggestion that the blood is menstrual blood. So I think it's really, I kept seeing these instances of menstruation being displayed in the public, and for people for some people, the centralized entities not being okay with it. even though, like I mentioned before, it is a very real experience for many people who menstruate around the world, everywhere. So why don't we get to tell these stories? So enter One Drop NFTs, where again, this is, our goals are to destigmatize menstruation and other gender-based issues. So one of the ways that I'm doing this is through Twitter Spaces. Since February 7th, I've been hosting Menstruation Monday Twitter Spaces. They are every Monday, except for next week when we're doing it on Tuesday, which is International Women's Day, at 12 noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. GMT, 9 p.m. CET. And these spaces have been a really wonderful place for people to share their stories. And I really can't overstate that I really want this to be a very inclusive movement. Not all women menstruate, and not all people who menstruate are women. And also, all of us have stories. And I really want those stories to be able to be told, whether you are a man or a woman, whether you menstruate or not. These are very important stories in our culture that don't normally get to be told. And now we are making a platform for people to be able to tell them. So if you want to join me for the next Menstrual Mondays, it's going to be on Tuesday, International Women's Day, at the original time, but on a different day. And then for the rest of the month, we will be resuming on our normal Monday time. These spaces have been incredible for hearing people's stories, and I've been able to learn so much about people's experiences. We've heard a lot of stories about, women's who are not just women, but also non-binary people who are dealing with cramps that are so severe and pain that's so severe. And it feels like there's no place where they can share about how bad it is and also be taken seriously. And on that note, there are so many stories of people going to the doctor about various issues around their menstruation, around their cramps, and not being taken seriously by doctors either. And, an ongoing theme is that there is a lot of generational knowledge that was lost when men started to become the authorities on the experiences around menstruation. And I think as a community, we have a lot of healing to do. And a lot of that healing is going to start with us just being able to tell the stories, like I keep on saying. So when it comes to telling stories, I think artwork is such a powerful way to do it, not just verbally telling our stories, but also presenting it through art. And these are some of the examples of artwork that we've gotten from artists for the official One Drop NFTs collection. So in addition to hosting conversations, I'm also collecting art from artists all over the Twitter space. And if you're watching this and you want to donate your art, I'll tell you how in just a second. But this is some of the art that we have collected so far. Amazing stories here. So the one on the left is by an artist named Sharuk Amin. And this piece is called Cripple It, and it expresses the sad result of all of the oppression of women giving in and crippling themselves to appease the patriarchy. And she's dressed pretty with makeup on point, etc. But to step out into this oppressive existence where she has to support herself with crutches, the crutches being the metaphor for alcohol, drugs, food, etc., and mental health suffers as a result. And as you can see in this striking photo, she has a streak of period blood running down her legs. And it's like very, very shocking and beautiful imagery by very talented artist Sharuk Amin. The middle one is a piece by Jennifer Panapinto, Quantum Spirit. And she submitted this piece, which is actually an animated GIF. I don't know if it's going to animate for you guys though. So I guess you're going to have to check out, stay tuned on my my Twitter to see more examples, but or to check out her Twitter, which is linked below the image. But she submitted this piece with a poem. It says Heavy, a poem. Drip drop, taking time through superpower period. Red, pink, normalize. So I think it just goes to show how important it is to normalize menstruation in our society through this beautiful art. Yes. And the last piece is by artist Amelie. And in this piece, you can see it almost looks like a plaster cast of a mother and a daughter, kind of leaning against each other with a big red dripping streak across their skirts and onto the walls. So Amelie's statement says, "I thought of mothers and daughters, of the blood in their veins that connects them and the blood in their shame that separates them. I thought of stigmas and silences and the love that resides in their wake. I thought of mothers and daughters and hoped for a better way. But that's just what I thought of. What about you?" So super powerful work here that we're seeing by artists. And this is just a few of the pieces. I'm collecting donations. So if you go to intent.art/one-drop-artists, you will see a form where you can submit some art of your own to be included in the official collection. We're going to be minting the official collection on intent.art, and we'll be selling it to raise money for period poverty and girls' education charities. The payment structure, or like the like where all the money is going, is very transparent. We have it on our website. 15% of the mints is going to go to the planet. All of the mints on intent.art have this structure because we are very sustainability forward, like I mentioned before. So 10% goes to a sustainability fund where we are able to invest in carbon capture projects and funding, different projects that really need funding at this moment in time. We're also doing 200% carbon offsets and planting at least 1 tree per mint. 5% of the mint price will go to administrative fees. Not a lot of people know this, but it's actually quite expensive to deploy smart contracts for minting NFTs. So that money goes to that. And then 80% of the mint price is going to go to the Period Poverty Fund. So I'm hoping that we can raise a lot of money, but that's going to depend on you, the community. So what I'm asking is to retweet the one drop, just look up hashtag one drop NFTs and you can retweet it. And there are rewards for people who are participating. There are rewards for community members. So if you retweet hashtag one drop NFTs and fill out the form to submit your ETH address, you will be getting a one drop NFTs POAP to commemorate your place in what I'm considering an important historical moment in women's history and in NFT history and art history, where we are coming together as a community to make a statement about the stories that we want to tell about our bodies. And then also the artists will also be getting a POAP for being a contributing artist. Obviously, they're donating their art. And so I wanted to be able to commemorate them and reward them in a really meaningful way. And so for those of you guys who don't know, POAP stands for Proof of Attendance Protocol. And it's basically a digital badge which comes with art. It's officially an NFT. And these are given to people who are present at certain events, whether digital or in person, or it can be earned for completing a task, such as the ones that I mentioned for one drop NFTs. So I really want us to come together and make a statement. But the thing that's really important to remember here is that one drop, the question, is our society ready for one drop of period blood, for one drop of menstrual blood? The question hasn't been answered yet. And so we're going to see through this month, because this is happening through the month of March, Women's History Month, we're going to see if the society is ready for this message yet. And this is going to show by how many people are retweeting, what is the community engagement, who's getting involved, and if people are actually going to buy the art, and if we're going to be able to raise the money that we want to raise for these really important and underfunded causes that need more attention that they're getting at the moment. So that is all of my that's my presentation for One Drop NFTs. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. My Twitter is @BlueMoon with M0XN, and I am I'm really happy to answer any questions for people who want to get involved or artists who want to donate art. So thank you so much for letting me come here and talk about it, and I can't wait to have you all grow the movement with me. Oh, Nicole, you're muted.
All right. Thank you. Hey, Blue, I am really excited about this project. So one of the questions that I have for you, actually I have two. One is kind of what pushback have you gotten so far in this project when you're revealing that you're going to do this very sensitive topic to folks? What is the response, and what's some of the pushback that you've gotten so far?
So far, I've gotten a really positive response, but probably the one that affected me the most was I was talking to a trans woman, and she said that, that focusing it around like a women's issue is trans exclusionary, which is something that I take really seriously. But I think from the beginning, I have set out to make it a really inclusive movement. Again, like I said, not all people who menstruate are women, and not all women menstruate. I think it's something really important to remember. And the fact is that what it's really about is about censorship and combating the censorship and the stories that are told about our bodies, whether or not we menstruate. We all have stories about it.
That's very true. My second question is absolutely in regards to kind of women's issues and issues that do affect women. I don't know if you knew this or not, but March is actually Endometriosis Awareness Month. And endometriosis is actually a very serious dysfunction, disease, illness that affects women and causes them to have very painful menstruation cycles, and amongst other things. It can be very debilitating to a ton of women, and a lot of women don't even know that they have it. So was that kind of instrumental in you wanting to talk about this at all, or is it just a coincidence that now is March and we are all, talking about these women's issues? It is time to get things on the table.
It is coincidental. I don't personally suffer from endometriosis, but my co-host from the One Drop NFTs show did have a very serious case, and she just shared her story this week. And it's amazing, and it's it goes back to what I was saying before about how there's so many instances of stories where women are not taken seriously when they're talking about their symptoms. And endometriosis itself, my understanding is that it's not a very well understood disorder. And so, and it just goes to show how much resources need to be directed towards women's issues. Endometriosis is one issue that has come up several times in this spaces. And just, I think it's important to have a space to recognize the pain that some women go through, and or female-bodied people go through. And yeah, it's a shame, and I'm happy to provide that space, even though it's not an issue that affects me directly.
Yeah. I, when you first said what you were going to talk about, I'm like, wait a minute, why do we want to do that? But I'm, after getting to know you and hearing kind of what you have to say about it, I think you've done this delicately, and it is a beautiful project. So you've spun it together very well, and I hope that it is well received in this community and space. So thank you for what you are doing. I want to thank you so much for your presentation today, and your contributions in both the panel and in your presentation. We are now going to start wrapping things up for the day. We're going to bring back on stage Natasha and Yinka to close us out with our closing statements. So we're going to go ahead and do that after a brief intermission. Thank you so much, Blue. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Wow, we just finished out an awesome conversation with some ladies who shared a lot of different perspectives and insights on all different topics. And then we had a really unique and interesting discussion with Blue about her mission with her One Drop project. And I think it's just been a good day overall for us with our International Women of Blockchain Celebration event.
I agree. Wow, it's been an eventful, packed morning or day for some people. And, we've learned a lot. We learned a lot. I think one of the most memorable quotes that I can walk away from is that, when companies are coming into this Web3 space that we're building, they better learn to adapt to what we want, right? I think that's powerful right there. That's the strength in self-sovereignty, the strength in the powers that we as people want to accumulate and start narrating and dictating how corporations behave in a space that's created for us. That's the whole decentralization aspect. And then, being fortunate to have Blue Moon come back and talk about something that's very important to us as women, or those that identify as women and non-gender conforming. It's very important for us to talk about those difficult topics. And knowing that there's like a space within NFT that's actually allowing us to broach some of these hot topics that maybe we don't talk about as often, especially when it comes to menstruation. That's something that, we all silently suffer through sometimes, but to have that as part of a project that she's putting together for One Drop NFTs, I think that's perfect. That's awesome. I love the artwork that the ladies are submitting or individuals are submitting. And I think that's awesome. And I encourage those of you who are listening, you heard her, there was a call to action. If you have an artwork, you have something that should be showcased, definitely reach out to her. I think that would be a great way to show more collectives in what she's building for One Drop NFTs. Today has been fantastic. We started at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's almost noon. We've had an eventful, packed day. We started with the panel from the committee members, and then we went into the speaker panel. And that discussion, wow, from the impact of blockchain, we learned how an artist who's, writing her own books, and she's talking about creating an NFT book, to individuals who are technically inclined, right? Talking about, how that's going to shift and change corporations, particularly, the fact that AWS, Amazon, has their own blockchain or are considering their own blockchain infrastructure. And that's very important, because the more we hear about this technology, the more we hear about what's being built, right? We know now that just recently a certain huge financial institution who their CEO was adamantly against this whole ecosystem, even though they were slowly behind the scene building for it, have recently said that they're going to have a presence in the metaverse. So now you're going to have, a big financial institution with their presence in the metaverse, where you could conduct business and be able to, come off the line and go to their physical location and be able to transact based on the interaction that you have online. So I think that's interesting. Really, that's the way and the future that we're heading towards, and it's going to be fantastic. But at the same time, they got to learn to conform to what we want, right? And that's important. That's whole decentralization. So tomorrow, I want you all to come back again, same time, same station, and join us once again. We will have Table Talk Thursdays. It's Thursday, Table Talk Thursdays. It's a tongue tie, but we want you to come back and join us on Thursday. Tap into the discussion. On Thursdays, we're going to have fireside chats. We're going to continue the panel discussions and also be able to tap into some of these leaders in this space who have been creating and building since the early stages and throughout the different years of this whole blockchain ecosystem and tap into what their thought process is, get a little bit more insight. Some thought-provoking discussions will happen as well. Just like today, I mean, we had a lot of great things that came to mind and got juices churning, as well as, I hope, creativities too, that you know that there's a need for innovation in this space. And I believe women are going to be the one that spearhead most of these innovations. And I can't wait to see and participate and hear about them. So join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, same place. Encourage your community to tap in, because this is an all month long event. We will start day 3 tomorrow, and we will have Table Talk Thursday, and we will have great panel discussions, and you'll be able to tap into so many different women across the globe. This is the International Women of Blockchain event. We thank you and greatly appreciate you joining us today. Don't forget to jump into our Discord. It's very important to continue the conversation. The speakers will be there in our Discord, and we want you to communicate with them, network with them, and find out what else is there for you in our Discord. There will be giveaways along the way, so just tap in, make sure you continuously join every day. And with that said, I just want to bid all of you adieu. Thank you very much, really appreciate it. Thank you, and have a good rest of your day or night. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.